Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mindset, Heartset, Reset. We are so excited for today. We can't wait to tell you what's coming. So this morning on Mindset, Heartset, Reset, we are a dynamic live weekly show that provokes introspection, cultivates compassion, and sparks positive change. Through insightful discussions, practical tools, and authentic stories, it nurtures and empowers mindset, open-hearted connections with other people, and it encourages us to hit that reset button on our own lives. Our mission is simple. It's to expand love on a global scale and with a vision to shift humanity's future into one which we can all thrive. So I'm excited to get started today. My name is Jacqueline Way. I am the co-host along with my beautiful partner, Dr. Roshanak Hashimoon, who you will meet in just a minute. My mission here is simple as well. I sit on the board of advisors for Humanity's Team. I host the show with Dr. Roshanak, and I have a charitable organization called 365 Give. I am the founder along with my son, and we are on a mission to change the world one small act of love at a time. We started a personal parenting project years ago when he was just 3 years old, and we did one thing to give back to the world every day. And today it's a global giving movement that's literally changing the world. Now, without further ado, we've already started a little late today. We're going to get our guests here on the screen with us, and I'm going to introduce my co-host, Dr. Roshanak Hashimoon. Now, Dr. Roshanak is a credentialed computational, clinical, and behavioral neuroscientist whose work has supported the transformational countless lives all across the globe. As founder of Access to the Path, she combines the power and process of science with emotional and spiritual intelligence to generate compelling and innovative strategies that help people and businesses become more purposeful, effective, and prosperous. Welcome to the stage, everyone. We're so excited to have this group of people together today. Dr. Roshanak, I'm going to turn this over to you to introduce our guests today. Welcome, everyone, to the stage.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I'm so excited for today's show. It is the third of our social justice series. Welcome, everybody, to Mindset, Heartset, Reset. Today, we have our esteemed guests, Ammar Coban and Mohamedou Ould Slahi, with us. As I said, this is the third of our series of the social justice series. Today's episode is called Guantanamo's Grace, the Freedom in Kindness, Faith, and Forgiveness. And what we've been wanting to do with this whole series is really bring forth the interconnection between economics, political policies, and our own humanity, how our emotions are getting overwhelmed, what we can do because we want to do something, but we feel helpless. And we're bringing, as we say, we promise to do in Mindset, Heartset, Reset, authentic stories and as well as strategies and tools that will help us to understand not this distanced way of what is going on out there, but real connection to real events, to our emotions, to the truth of what is going on and what we can do about it, because certainly there's something that we can do about what is happening with our own state and the state of the world moving forward. Sorry, I heard something. So without further ado, I would like to let you know that today's episode really centers around these two amazing gentlemen who are with us. Mohamedou Ould Slahi, with whom you may be familiar, who is the innocent man that was tortured for 15 years, 14 years in the infamous Guantanamo Bay detention camp, the military camp, that really his book, Guantanamo Diary, blew the doors off of that. We started to understand what was happening there. And Ammar Coban, who you may not know, but who you should know, who is the family friend that worked relentlessly to help Mohamedou, the innocent person caught in the crossfires of othering and propaganda and people's agendas, who helped him get out. So please welcome me in joining Ammar and Mohamedou. I will come to you first to welcome you, then I will read your bios, and we'll just go to a little trailer that tells a little bit more about who you are and what we're going to be discussing. So welcome, Ammar.
Thank you very much. Hi, Jacqueline. Hi, Roshanak. It's nice to be here. It's a premiere, by the way. It's my first time online here with Mohamedou, by the way, in
Fantastic.
all those years. So I'm excited
I love that.
to
We're
be here.
super excited to offer that opportunity. Mohamedou, welcome, my dear friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel really at home, and I'm going to take advantage of this love you guys are spreading. I'm taking it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Jacqueline and I have a way of actually sharing energy that Jacqueline showed me. Jacqueline, do you want to tell it for a second, and we'll start with that, and then
Sure,
we'll
absolutely. I love that. If we can ask, and everybody who's out in YouTube land and Facebook, everybody can just put your hands together for a moment. We're going to do a quick namaste, and we're going to share a little energy with everybody. So just rub your hands together. We're just going to gather up the energy very quickly. Big breath in. And we give it up. And together we touch our hands. And we share that energy with the world. Because that's what we're here.
Beautiful
Thank
energy.
you.
Beautiful
Namaste.
energy. Namaste.
Thank you for coming to you both.
So I will tell you a little bit about each of our esteemed guests. Ammar is a 29-year-old, 30-year-old, based in Germany. He is a passionate advocate for social justice and global love. He grew up in a multicultural environment with roots in Turkey and Bosnia, and is the son of immigrants, and draws his strength from his mother's resilience as a refugee during the Yugoslavian war. In recent years, of course, as I mentioned, he devoted his skills and time to the seemingly impossible task of securing the release of innocent Mohamedou Ould Slahi from Guantánamo Bay, which is an absolutely notorious U.S. military prison just outside of the U.S. and Cuba, right? So that successful journey then unfolded into a book-turned-movie called The Mauritanian, and we'll see a trailer from that in a little bit. And I would just love to say that Ammar is amazing with his advocacy work. He is an entrepreneur, he is a business consultant, and he brings his diverse skills and his commitment to creating positive change. With a belief that transcends cultural divides, Ammar stands as a beacon for those who share the conviction that compassion and justice can transform the world. That's Ammar. Mohamedou is an internationally acclaimed author who currently holds positions as writer-in-residence for NITE, N-I-T-E, and De Bali in the Netherlands. In recognition of his dedication to peace and his notable achievements in fostering harmony, he is often referred to as Peace Laureate and Champion of Peace. He was born in Rosso, Mauritania, the 9th of 12 children of a camel herder. And as a child, his family moved to the capital of Mauritania. That gave him the opportunity to compete with the other children at a higher level and showed how bright he was. He's very intelligent. He won a scholarship to study electrical engineering in Germany, Germany, world famous for engineering. And he got his degree there. And while living there, visited Afghanistan, and that became the source of all the ensuing troubles that came about. In 2001, while living in Mauritania, he was essentially abducted from his home. He was detained and transported first to a Jordanian prison, then to Afghanistan, I believe, and after that by the US through the extraordinary rendition program, he was in fact taken to Guantánamo, where for many years he sat there without any representation. And then ultimately, after about 7 years, a judge found him innocent and asked for his release. And that didn't happen. So he sat there for 7 more years. And we'll get into all of that. After 15 years of detention, he was finally released back to Mauritania in October of 2016. During his time, mostly in isolation, he wrote the book Guantánamo Diary. It took about 7 or 8 years before the US released it with extensive redactions. And then the book was released, debuting at number 14 on the New York Times bestseller list and immediately being optioned for a movie, which then became the famous movie, The Mauritanian, which got Jodie Foster her Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress. In spite of all of his suffering, Mohamedou's message to the world resonates with forgiveness and oneness. This is what we're really going to focus on today. his journey from the arid landscapes of Mauritania to international literary acclaim and the title of Peace Laureate is marked by brilliance, resilience, and kindness. These are our guests today. I'm so excited to welcome you. So we'll start with, just to get you all familiar if you aren't, with a trailer for the movie The Mauritanian, which will give us background, and then we'll jump right into having a discussion with Ammar and Mohamedou and all of you who are joining us in the private viewing room on Facebook or YouTube. You are free to make comments and ask us questions, and we will share those questions with Ammar and Mohamedou. So let's have the trailer then.
Never been part of a conspiracy, but I'm starting to think that this is what it must feel like to be on the outside of one.
If you stray outside the designated areas, you will be removed from the island.
It's recommended you wear a hijab when visiting your client. We've had incidents of inmates spitting at female lawyers.
You want to represent the head recruiter for 9/11.
Mohamedou Ould Slahi, the Mauritanian held in Guantánamo. He recruited the guys who flew your friend's plane into the South Tower.
He put those men on my husband's plane?
I'm gonna make him pay.
In the event the detainee lunges for you, push back away from the table. We'll get in there as quick as we can.
I'm Nancy Hollander. This is my associate. We wish to represent you.
We are seeking the death penalty, but if we miss something, this guy goes home. Let's get to it.
Call this number. Speak to my mother. Tell her, I don't know, something nice.
The U.S. government is holding upwards of 700 prisoners in Guantanamo. Since when did we start locking people up without a trial in this country?
That's a lot of case files.
The prosecution won't show us the evidence they have against you. It's all redacted.
You got a problem? Take it up with the government.
All my time here, I've been told you are guilty. Not for something that I have done, but because of suspicions and associations. I am innocent.
He has been interrogated. He has been held against his will for 6 years without a single charge being laid against him.
Doesn't it bother you at all working for something like this?
I'm not just defending him. I'm defending the rule of law.
You haven't seen what I've seen.
Where I'm from, in Mauritania, we know not to trust the police. But never did I believe that the United States of America would use fear and terror to control me.
A couple sleepless nights, that's all.
I've never been part of a conspiracy, but I'm starting to think this is what it must feel like to be on the outside of one.
You're overthinking this. Either wear the jersey or get off the field.
You need to tell me what happened to you. I can't defend you. Do you understand that?
You asked me to set fire to this place, but I'm still sitting.
Maybe he's guilty.
Maybe he is. We're doing our job.
I'm not welcome home. That's not a part of my job.
If I'm wrong, when it comes to my reckoning, I'm the one that'll have to answer for it.
What makes you think you're any better than the rest of us?
I don't think I'm better than anybody else. That is the point.
For 8 years, I have been dreaming of being in a courtroom. Now that I'm here, I'm scared to death.
You know, I think I figured out why they built Guantanamo down there. My client, he's not a suspect. He's a witness.
Mr. Slahi, would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me?
The Mauritanian.
Thank you so much for that trailer. So I'm going to start by asking you, Ammar, because you and I first met on Clubhouse, actually, and that's how I got to meet Mohamedou. And I had seen the movie The Mauritanian. Actually, it was on my radar. And the funny thing is, it wasn't what I thought it was about. I thought it was a completely different movie. And finally, about a year later, which was about a year ago, I saw the movie and I can't tell you all the adjectives of how it affected me. And so when you and I first met, Ammar, and then you told me about the Mauritanian, it immediately set off all my alarms. I was like, oh my goodness. And I thought to myself, how does one person go up against the US military, go up against what what people have been fighting for, and just I was astonished. So how did you find out what was going on? And then how did you do something about it? What went through your head that allowed you to think you could do something about it? Because so many people think, how can I make a difference? I'm one person. And then the United States of America, military, are you kidding? So I'd love to hear how you found out. What was that journey? What went through your head that then had you taking action? And what actions did you take to get this going?
Well, when I start, you need to say stop, because I won't stop. So it's a long story. And well, I think, as you mentioned, it's the U.S. military, it's America, it's the U.S. government, it's David against Goliath, right? And I think for that, you really need a big why. You really need a purpose. And well, for those who don't know, Mohamedou came into my life, I think, when I was around 2-3 years old. So I don't really remember this time. This is what my parents told me. So this guy studied in my hometown in Duisburg, where I was born. And well, he used to play with me, teach me in mosques. So he was a good friend of my father. And then I forgot about him. I think he was back in Mauritania, so I didn't really, I had no connection to him up until I was, I think, 12 years old, when the first time I was watching NTV, which is the German news channel. I was watching it, and I was quite young. My dad was watching it as well, and I saw my mom cry for the first time, because you could see Mohamedou's face on the news, together with Mohammed Atta, the hijackers of 9/11, Osama bin Laden, and all of those men. And my mom cried, and I couldn't understand why. I saw my mom cry for the very first time in my life. I will never forget that. And years later, it happened again when I was 16. My mom cried again, and she's a Bosnian. She's a tough lady who came from war. And she said a sentence that I will never forget. She said in Bosnian, in her language, she said, "I wish you were dead," to Mohamedou. And that was the moment where I really said, okay, Mom, sit down. You got to tell me what's wrong, because I remember that you used to cry years ago. And then she told me who it is. He said, well, Mohamedou, the man in Guantánamo, well, you would consider him as an uncle. He took care of you when you were small, and this hit me. That was tough. And I said, okay, why do you wish him death? And she said, look, I come from the Bosnian War. I know what a concentration camp is, and I know how bad it is. And Guantánamo is nothing else than a concentration camp of the 21st century. And she said, being dead is better than being there. And well, that was actually the moment where I really got into all of that. I decided to do it. I had a big why. I knew he was innocent without knowing the facts, without understanding the world, but I kind of knew it. And I think it was a good mixture of teenage stupidity, naivety, greenness, mixed with hope, maybe. And all of that, I think it was a mixture of emotions, and all of that made me start my own research. So this is how my journey started. Mohamedou didn't know about that at that time. I don't even know if he thought about me when he was in Guantánamo, when he was sitting in his cell, because he left me when I was a child, right? And now I was a teenager. And well, that's how everything started. And yeah, I had a big why. That's why I think I did it.
Thank you so much for that. Jacqueline, I think you wanted to ask a question.
I did. Sorry about that. I'm having some background noise challenges, so I'm trying to remember to undo my mic before I start blurting out all my questions. I have a lot. Ammar, thank you so much for sharing that story. I've been blessed to hear that story as well, and it amazes me that in the shortness of the story that you just told us, that there was, as much as it was your why, you took action. And we always, I'm going to go back to something we usually do at the end of the show, which is, if you could get off the couch and do something, what would you tell everybody? And I feel like you just shared with us your get off the couch story, and how we can just take those steps to go and help another human being that is so far in some ways was removed from you at that time, but you still took that action. And that is just remarkable. So thank you for sharing this part of the story with us as well. Mohamedou, I really want to come over to you. What a pleasure it is for me to meet you. You and I both said just before we hopped on, we feel like we've met before, and I believe that that's always possible in whether it's this lifetime or another one. So thank you for being with us today. I want to talk a little bit about your book. Your story is widely, obviously, out there and known at this point. And I want to talk a little bit about the book. A version came out first in 2015 that had been vetted. Your truth wasn't fully told at that time. To have somebody go through and take out the parts of the book that potentially, whether they were important, they were your truth ultimately, that were taken out. And then you got to come back and you got to tell your truth after you were released. And you got to add the words and the story that was your own. We always know that at the end of a story, there's a beautiful lesson. I'm not going to ask you today to walk through the horrific things that happened to you in the jail. People can go, or Guantánamo Bay, people can go and read your book. They can watch the story. What I really would love to learn today is, through telling your story, what we know about diaries, and I love that it was called a diary, is many of us have a diary. It tells the story of our life. And we hope that when we come to the end of that diary or that particular part of our life, we've learned something. When you came to the end of that book for you, what did you really want to share with the world? Not just the moment by moment, the days by days, but what were the lessons you wanted to share with the world through sharing this story in your own diary through this
time? First, I would love really to tell you guys how grateful I am to be a part of this beautiful revolution, I would say. This is a revolution. What you guys are doing is, I never seen something like this. And the moment Ammar and Roshanak told me about this, I said, please accept me. I want to be part of this. There is like a saying, I don't understand the question, but I know the answer is love. So the whole question, the whole
That's my answer every time. Roshanak. That's always my answer.
I don't know if you can read it, but it says in Arabic, it says love.
I love that.
Yes,
okay, I need you to send me a picture of that, please.
Yes, it is beautiful. So I just want to tell you, like, the story of me and Ammar is pure love. So I'm a very good friend of his mom. I'm a very good friend of his dad. So I'm part of the family. And this shows you how love transcends ethnicity, background, cultural background. I know people think, oh, those people are Muslims. We couldn't be further apart culturally. Honestly, it's like worlds apart. And actually, what he didn't tell you, I know it's a long story, but I really like this anecdote when he tried to reach out to my family. And my family is very terrified. They are very afraid. They're being exposed to incessant spying, incessant harassment, just because they're related to me. And when he met my brother in Düsseldorf, I think he can correct me if I'm wrong. My brother thought that he was CIA.
Well, I think I need to tell the story as well. Huh?
Yes, I think you need to tell them, because my brother was very terrified when he saw him, all black, I don't know, some kind of. I think he had also like sunglasses.
He came in, looked like the CIA with the dark. You don't wear sunglasses, but he's just all dressed in like sleek black and just has the walk. And
well, I will tell you the story. Yeah.
Well, and
Mark, can I ask a quick question for you? How old were you when this started for you? Like when you started this, how old were you then?
So the first time I was kidnapped, I was 28.
And Ammar, how old were you? Would you have been then?
I was 15, 16 when I started it.
Wow. Amazing. Okay. I just wanted everyone to get context of that story.
Yeah.
You're both, you're a grown
very
man
young
at this point, but that's
And by the way, he also didn't tell you that he was briefly arrested in Canada.
True.
And he was a teenager. He was a minor.
Don't say that.
Right.
Not in my Canada. That's where I'm sitting right now.
Yes.
I don't think we wanted that out there, Mohamedou, but go ahead. I was like, I'm never going on anything with this guy again.
And this is like what I love about this. So, and I just to address your question, like, there is an African proverb: as long as the lion doesn't know how to write, the story will always glorify the hunted. And I'm not here like to preach or to give anybody any lesson. I love the saying of the French philosopher Montaigne: "Je n'enseigne pas, je raconte." I repeat: "Je n'enseigne pas, je raconte." I don't give lessons. I don't give lectures. I just tell stories. And I think people, we all we can all serve as mirrors to others. That's it. You can see and you can choose, what you want, and I don't think that I'm qualified to give anyone any lesson, but the biggest lesson I learned, in this whole thing, that we are one. Because I have to be very honest with you guys. When I grew up, I thought this small bubble in Duisburg, Muslim community, quote unquote, or like my Muslim community in Mauritania, that's it. That's all we get. And those are the people I need to trust. Those are the people. But what really I discovered through this pain and suffering, which I would call growth, is that the people who stood by me, by and large, weren't even Muslims. Those people are my brothers and sisters that Allah was hiding from me, and I get to be introduced to them through so much of pain and suffering. And they were much more dedicated to helping me than much more than, like, let's say, my family or like my small bubble. So the bubble burst in my case very violently, and it shows me like who are the people who are with me and who are not with me. It's just one last point I want to make, and I give it back to you because I'm so excited. When I'm excited, I tend to talk a lot, but I really want to squeeze this point in. When I read Clash of Civilization, Samuel Huntington, I was depressed. I said, I'm screwed. I was born as a Muslim. I was born in Africa. And Samuel Huntington is asking me to take a sword or a gun and go fight everybody because I'm doomed. I have to fight everybody, and one of us has to win. And then I put down the book, because I really like to read the book. And then it just was like, it's like watching like a horror movie, And then Allah, helped me, and I read Identity and Violence by Sen Samarian, and he really like cured me because he told me very much the message: you are not just a Muslim. You may be a man, that's an identity, or a woman. You may have this orientation or that orientation, that's an identity. You are a liberal-minded or open-minded, that's an identity. You are tall or short, you have certain choices. You like this kind of food. That's even identity. And you can count the identities in you, and they are like gazillions identity. And every person you meet today has so many shared identity with you, that you guys are the same, so many things, and this is the Samuel Huntington idea that there are four kinds of people: Muslims, the West, and the East. And I don't know the other identity, to be honest, because I don't care.
That's the other group. That's just everybody else over there.
Everybody else. So this is what I call the CIA box. CIA box is a restraint box. They put people in, they torture them, and you can't move. So if you accept this identity that is given to you, and you said, I have to fight for something I didn't choose, instead of saying, no, I don't accept this. Today, when I go to the Dutch people and talk to them, I call my family. I told them, those are the most beautiful people I ever met in my life. And you really see what you really want to see. And never once, anybody told me anything that I don't like. The people always kind to me when I go, and that's it. That's what I want. This kind of work that you guys preach. And I want to be part of it because I don't want pain. I don't want suffering. I don't want war. Now back to you.
If you'll allow me for a moment, Jacqueline. I know. Jacqueline is having a conniption right now because you're basically
you and I
words
like
that come out of her
from the same
mouth
cloth.
come out of yours. So it's like you might as well be twins right now.
Yeah.
So just so you know, she's just kind of like it's astounding. She's like beside herself with joy right now. So this idea of identity politics and othering is incredibly important. As we've done this social justice series, we had Sean Claffey on 2 weeks ago, who's the director of the movie American, that beautifully shows how in the United States things changed, where they started, where workers had no rights. And then there was a development of unions that helped to have this checks and balances, and how that started to unravel in 1975, 1980, and the disparity where there's tremendous productivity in the country, but how people are having a harder and harder time keeping the same standard of living. Why do I mention that? Because as you start to change people's social status, it's been shown, they become more susceptible to propaganda. This also happened after World War I, just before World War II in Germany, where the workers had no chance or hope of getting to anything better, of seeing the world, they were just quite depressed. And then along came Hitler and his party, and they put them on a boat, literally. They're like, we'll take you around the world. We'll take you on vacations. We'll show you things. Just watch this propaganda. And they're like, okay, I could do that. And so either they start to believe the propaganda because that is literally the brainwashing and it's effective, or they say, I understand this is propaganda, but this is the person who's taking care of me, so I'm okay with that. But they're giving me things I never had before and I wouldn't have a chance of getting. So you can see how from a distance we'd go, well, how would that happen? Or that would never happen to me. Or we think we're resilient or resistant to such things. But these machines work like a machine. And like any machine can be hacked. And they don't get hacked, these machines, when we, or less likely, when we are very present. And most people are not so engaged and aware and consciously present to every moment of their lives, and also feel more and more like they're powerless. So, Mohamedou, I would like to come to you and ask you, how did you, and I'm sure it wasn't every minute of every day, but how did you stay so present? How did you keep your power?
To be honest, the short answer, I don't know. Ironically, the most powerful thing that I could do back then and I could do today is let go. This I'm holding, just let go. And I studied, a lot just by looking at people and thinking and interacting with other culture. We say in Arabic, salah, meaning prayer, but every other Muslim I know, because Arab are minority in the Islamic world, and very small minority, and everybody else don't speak Arabic. They call it namaz.
Yeah.
And I just discovered that namaz is much older, than that. So so this helped me a lot, and we have something we call in Islam khushu', and this is exactly like this kind of meditation that also in other culture. And I try to use that and welcome all of these beautiful things and integrate them in my own culture. And I could see them, I could always say, okay, I could do that. But the most freeing thing, to be honest to you, is when I decided to forgive. And I tell you the story. So my first black site was in Jordan. When I was kidnapped, I was taken to Jordan, and I was put in a place where I couldn't see anything. Most of the time, I didn't know days or night. And I used to every day to make like a dent in myself to count the days. After 8 months, it turns out I lost 10 days. I don't know how, but the mind and with the absence of interaction and with nature, we don't know really days from night, and we have no clue about the time. Really, very little information. And they took me after that, and they told me I was going home, but it was like a ruse because they gave me to the CIA. And in the truck, as the CIA took me over, they started to destroy my clothes with scissors, and just those pictures I saw in Germany about prisons, about those poor black people who spend their whole life, people who are condemned to death row. And I saw myself as one of them, and I knew it occurred to me then that I won't be going home anytime soon. And I was only hoping and praying not to dishonor my family, not to dishonor my community. And I was thinking, because they took all my clothes, and I know they would parade me in front of the camera. I didn't want my mom to see me in this stage. And I started to regret. And I will tell you what I didn't regret, actually. I didn't regret not having money. It didn't matter to me. I did not regret not having a house, an apartment in 5e arrondissement in Paris. I didn't regret so many beautiful women I met in college who didn't want me. I didn't regret them. But I did regret only one and only one thing. Every time I spoke in anger to my mother or to my friends or to anyone or to my partner, that I did regret. And I made it upon myself as a pact never to speak in anger to anyone and to be kind no matter what. And I know this is very hard. That's why I decided to forgive everyone. And because I found my freedom, in forgiveness. And I love this saying, resentment, it's like drinking poison and hoping that your enemy dies.
I've heard that before. I love that expression. Revenge is. There's a second one. There's one that drinking poison, hoping your enemy dies. The other is raising a hot, like you put your hand on a hot coal to throw at your enemy. Guess whose hand gets burned first? Jacqueline.
I'm speechless today, which is unusual for me. But
like
to be able to, you say you don't share any lessons, you don't have anything to teach us, but in your words, in how you're showing up in your life, is all of our teacher. Because that alone, and the words that we use with the people in our life, I can promise you right now, I had some frustrating times with my children just yesterday in which I raised my voice at them, and I'm going to reconsider that moving forward, and how I can do things differently for the simple reason that you stated, that I can't expect anyone else around me to show up any differently than how I show up as well. And in your kindness, in your love that you're sharing with us here, and your story, as you so beautifully said earlier, all you can do is share your story, is we all get to learn from your story. So
I want to ask you something, please. What you said really reminds me of a very beautiful saying. I think it's attributed to Mahatma Gandhi. My life is my advice to you. Isn't that something like that?
It doesn't matter because it's true. So we can just put your name on. We're going to put your name on that, and we're going to create an Instagram tile.
Actually, it's the most beautiful thing, because that's the only advice you can give, because you can talk a lot,
right?
But in the end, it boils down to this. And they have a saying in Canada, I think, what you do is so loud, I can't hear what you say.
Absolutely. Actions speak louder than words, right? All of those beautiful things that we get to look at our own lives. I have my next question for you, Mohamedou, is, and Ammar, this might go to you as well, because I'd like to hear, one of the things that I before we started this is you both have been very involved with this story and this journey, but from two very different perspectives. And this is a social justice series. And one of the things that Dr. Roshanak had said to me, she said, but it's not about social justice. Mohamedou says it's not about social justice. But Ammar, maybe for you, there might be some social justice in this. And two different ways of taking a look at that. When people go out to the streets these days, and we can see our world right now and the ongoing parallels that have been running through history and time over the course of almost human history at this point. Is this, Ammar, did you do this for social justice? Was this getting justice for Mohamedou, for your family, for people of your culture, for Muslims? Was this social justice? And Mohamedou, why do you not think there's any social justice in this?
Well, first of all, having Mohamedou now on the show together with him in one interview makes me realize how different we are actually. And I think that's the secret recipe for all of this, because he's always this compassionate guy, forgiving. I think with age comes wisdom, and also with experience. And I am actually the total difference. Actually, I was the guy who was
taking a stab at me. I'm not going. I was warned not to say any bad things. But
no, well, I mean, what I learned is if you're backed against the wall, there's no forgiving or something. There's tear down the wall and take what's there. And for me, it was it started as revenge. I was like, okay, you guys think you're harder than us. I will show you what not giving up means. And it's funny because after school, I remember when I was, I think, in the 11th grade or something, after in the high school. And what do students do usually when they get home? They go for football clubs, or they do go and visit friends. And I remember I was reading recently leaked WikiLeaks files from Julian Assange, who leaked Mohamedou's interrogation plan. So, and I always remember that we had challenges such as, well, we weren't 18. Those movies were starting from, if you were 18, you could watch them. So we had challenges, go watch Saw, the horror movie, or go watch Final Destination and stuff. And they're 16 reading real life torture. And I think that helped me to say, okay, it is about justice. It is about revenge. So I was not coming from the compassionate side as Mohamedou was maybe. And I will never forget that I was reading that file and I was shaking in my room. My dad, my mom, no one knew about it. And I was shaking because it was written in such a sick way that torture had a scientific background. So they discussed in that file how they could break him the most and how they could, when does it make sense to hit him? Only if he was starving before, then it makes sense to hit his head against the wall and such things. And while I was reading it, I always reminded myself, okay, what this is happening right now. What I'm reading is happening over in Cuba. So for me, it was social justice. And for me, it was about, well, revenge. And no matter what I did, I always had the feeling of, first of all, you cannot speak to anyone about it because they wouldn't understand. So I was alone. I was on my own. That was my first thing. I could speak with my dad about it, but there are no friends. There are no colleagues. There are no students. I cannot go and ask a teacher to help me out or to help me build up a petition because this guy will label me as a terrorist. This guy will label me as, okay, someone who's helping Al-Qaeda get out of Guantánamo, someone who's responsible for 9/11, whatever. So I couldn't speak. That's the first lesson I learned. Keep your mouth shut. And the second thing was, no matter what I wanted to do, I always had the feeling, okay, now it's blocked. So for example, when I went to my dad to ask him, I would like to write a letter to Mohamedou so he knows that I'm there and he knows that I'm helping. I want to give him hope. So, and I found out that the White House had a ruling for letters that go to Guantanamo Bay prisoners. And it said that it has to be very neutral. It has to be English. My English was very bad at that time. It cannot contain any Arabic words, no Islamic words. I couldn't quote the Quran, for example. I couldn't say inshallah, which means God willing. It should be as dry as possible. So I couldn't make him happy in a letter. So I would just write, okay, my name's Ammar. I'm here for you. And that's it. And I wrote a letter and I think I still got it somewhere. And I showed it to my dad. And my dad read it and he said, you're not sending this to him. And I said, okay, why is that? And he said, they will open it and they will read it, right? I said, yes, they will. And he goes like, what do you think? What will they do to him when they read your message? Something that will bring joy to Mohamedou's life, something that will give him hope. They will do everything possible to break his joy, to break his hope. So by doing this, you will just make his situation worse. And so I couldn't, like everywhere I was going, it was always blocked. So I went to Amnesty International then. And I told them about my story. I told them everything about Mohamedou. I showed them the files, the interrogation plan, which was, by the way, personally signed by Donald Rumsfeld and George W. Bush. I did all of that. And they said, we cannot help you if it's just one person. So I said, okay, wait, there are 700 of them in Guantanamo. And I bet those are, like, all of them are innocent. And I had to prove it. That's the thing. I could prove it maybe with Mohamedou, but I had to prove it for 700 other prisoners as well. So then they would do something. And that was the time where Guantanamo became more and more notorious and famous in a negative way. And then slowly Amnesty started helping me out with petitions and stuff. But no matter what I did, I always had this blockade. So, for me, well, yes, as you can hear, it was justice. It was, I will show you how great I am, to quote Muhammad Ali, huh?
So you persevered. So that energy that you had, that was anger being a violation of goals, of expectations, you channeled that into action.
Absolutely.
And you didn't stop because, on the, exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, exactly. I was angry. I was young, angry. I wasn't controlled by anyone. I just know that mommy and daddy said, watch out what you're doing. And actually, I know that my mom said, when you get out on the street and when you're out, keep watching if someone follows you. So I grew up very paranoid. I didn't have a youth or teenage time as usual teenagers would have. And then, well, not giving up is, I think, the right word, but at the end, it is only the one Almighty who helps you. And and that's actually a story that Mohamedou said. I was searching for his family. And his brother, I found out that his brother lives in Düsseldorf. At that time, I was living in the same city. And I texted him, but this guy ignored me. So he didn't know about me. So Mohamedou didn't tell him about me. And I was searching for him for months. And I had one plan of, I had a picture of him because I saw it on Facebook. Back in the days, Facebook was quite popular. I know everyone on Instagram right now. But back in the days, it was Facebook. And the plan was to visit every mosque in Düsseldorf on Friday prayers, where all the Muslims gathered. So I would go to the Turkish mosque, he wasn't there. I would go to the Moroccan mosque, he wasn't there, and so on for weeks and weeks and months. And I would always ask with a picture, like, do you know this guy? Do you know this guy? And well, I didn't find him. And then on one rainy evening, it was quite dark. And I was in a suit because I had a job that required a suit. So I was quite in a dark suit. It was rainy, it was dark. And I just got a fresh haircut. To be honest, I looked amazing at that moment. And well, this train.
You can just go to his Instagram account and see all of it.
I was in such a good mood, to be honest. And I didn't know where all of this was going. So in several minutes, my whole life changed because I was waiting for the train. The train comes, and it's a long train, and the door opens, and this little guy steps out of the train and passes by me. And I was like, this is Yahdi, which is Mohamedou's brother. And he is small, like Yahdi, if you're hearing this, sorry, but he is small. Mauritanians are small.
Pocket size.
Well, and I was like, big guy in well, more or less big, trained at that time, and also like in a suit. And I go, Yahdi, and he turns around and says yes. And I said, I'm a good friend of Mohamedou, and I was searching for you. And to be honest, I've never ever in my life seen someone being so afraid of me. And he steps back, and I ask him again, hey, I'm a good friend of Mohamedou. He knows me since I was a child. I know everything about his case. And I was just telling him everything I know. And the more I was telling him, the more he got afraid. So he goes like, okay, how does he know those information? Where does he get those information from? And I didn't think of, okay, he might think that I'm, I don't know, from an agency or something. So he's afraid. And that was actually the moment several days before that Mohamedou got released from Guantánamo, and he wasn't back in Mauritania. And Yahdi goes, I will call my brother now. And he calls Mohamedou and says to him, I'm here in Düsseldorf. There's some guy claiming he knows you. And Mohamedou, and they were speaking in their Arabic accent, like a Mauritanian accent. I couldn't understand everything because my Arabic is not that good. But I could understand that this is going nowhere. So I think Mohamedou will tell him, no, I don't remember Ammar or something. And Mohamedou said the most Arabic or most Muslim sentence you could say. He told his brother, go and ask this guy who his dad and his mom is. And then I said, well, I am Salih's son, married a Bosnian lady back in Duisburg. And Yahdi tells it to Mohamedou, and I can hear Mohamedou scream from the other side. This is Ammar. This is Ammar. Please give it to him. And the first thing, I was really, really shaking because it felt like a journey ends. Because for the first time I have him. And the last time we spoke, we actually didn't spoke because I was 3. So he was speaking to me. But this time I could respond. And I got him on the phone. And the first question this crazy guy Mohamedou asks, he goes like, my nephew, how are you? And I was like, man, you just came out of Guantanamo. Like, how are you? Like, don't ask about me. And then he said, please take my number. We're going to talk again. And then I called him via FaceTime. And he said, "Wow, you got a beard now." So
you're not 3 years old anymore.
that was the first thing. So all of that was always happy moments in there, but all those happy moments made me angry at the same time, because I know this is what they took away from us. This is what they took away from my family, from his family. And yes, I was an angry young teenager who started this, and it was something like a personal war, I could say. And it didn't end. And to be honest, it's still not over right now.
That's,
Now you got
thank
the
you
story.
so much for sharing that. I love the sheer purity of the experience of the journey, because so many people don't share the full truth. And that's what we do on the show. We bring really authentic, vulnerable truth stories where we don't pretend to be, oh, everything's great all the time, or, it's not this fairy tale version of how it works. And I think that's so important, because real people can connect to real feelings and the real journey and say, okay, so this is within reach. This is how I can do it. This is normal. This is, and by normal, I mean that it is something that is to be expected. And so the part that is, so we're all ordinary, but we're all extraordinary in our, as well as ordinary. So the extraordinary measures that you took are an inspiration for every single one of us, because we're all the same like this. So I very much appreciate that story. And I could feel, what was happening on that dark, rainy night with you in full suit and this big, whatever put together guy. And then, Yahtzee going, what is happening?
That's where you just, sorry, and I'm going to say it anyways.
I'm done.
You just can't make that shit up.
You
Like,
can't make it up.
like forget synchronicity, forget, like, these are the stories that we talk about.
But that was such a synchronicity, wasn't it? But as Ammar said,
or was it God's plan? Allah's plan?
That's what I mean. That's
right?
exactly what I mean. I don't believe in coincidence.
Perfect.
It happens when it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And in that moment, and I could feel, and you couldn't see it here, but the tears were welling up in my eyes as you told me of the first moment. You spoke to him, and I was imagining that moment where you were on FaceTime with him for the first time. And I just, not that I wish I was a fly in the wall, but I just was overwhelmed with emotion and how that must have felt for you both.
Oh, yeah.
That moment of time, and how beautiful. Thank you for sharing that part of the story, because it's big. And Mohamedou, let's talk social justice for you. What's the justice you need?
I just want to tell you, I was very shocked because, like, he had like very specific memory about me, because I left him when he was 3 or 4. I don't remember, but he actually explained to me very specific games I used to play with him. And that game does not exist in Turkey or in.
Should we do it?
Yeah, with the hand. It's like,
do you want to explain?
Like a Bedouin game, and only I don't know it anywhere else except Mauritania, but he remembers that. And that really shocked me, because I don't think I remember anything when I was 3 or 4, to be honest. Very vague, and there is justice. You can always enforce yourself. The most perfect justice is to forgive. And I know this does not sound sexy, because people really like revenge. People really like, I give you an example that I went through, and like breakup of a relationship. In a breakup of a relationship, there is a lot of negative energy, a lot of resentment, a lot of people, and everybody think I been wrong. Every party think I been wrong. And I'm obsessed with the true crime, shows. And I'm not even ashamed to admit it. And I always see those people, they kill each other because of a breakup. And not only, but they are so ugly that they use the kids as weapon. They weaponize the kids in these breakups. And what I really believe, that they're really very honest in their emotions. They really think they're really very wrong. And so in this situation, people are very hard pressed to forgive, because they say this is like beyond any pain, beyond anything, and they cannot forgive this. But in my experience, to be honest, and I practice this in my life, I'm not only preaching it. Forgiveness is really the best, thing, the best thing that will heal you. So this justice it's under your control. Because when I was kidnapped, I lost everything in a blink of an eye. I lost all my money. I lost my house. I lost my car was taken by the police, and I had nothing. And even my clothes, the CIA came and they ripped them open and they threw them in the garbage. And they put me in diapers and in some uniform that I couldn't see because I was blindfolded. So what remained is my kindness. The thing that I did to people, whenever I did a good gesture, that's not something anyone can erase. And I do have a saying in my culture, in Islam, the only thing that you own is what you gave. And this couldn't be more true in my case. The only thing at that moment I owned is the thing that I gave to that guy I passed in Germany or in Mauritania, and he was hungry and I gave him to eat. That's something that no one can take away from. Every time I did a kind gesture, and this I practice every day, like not every day, but I try to do a kind gesture every day, and this makes me happy. It's very like egoistic, I think, because it makes me so happy to be kind to other people. So this kind of social justice, and we have this this is not theory. We have this in the example of South Africa with Mandela. His example is unheard of because in a matter of a couple of years, he achieved reconciliation after what's Bürgerkrieg in English?
Civil war.
Yeah, after a civil war, and and this is like unheard of, and we don't study this example because he's a black guy from Africa. Who cares, And this is an example because I don't know any example of a civil war that ended so quickly through forgiveness as a weapon of reconciliation and social justice.
You're turned off, Russian accent. There you go.
Like my fingers are going crazy right now. I just wanted us to sit with that for a minute. Mm-hmm. The power of this weapon that brings about reconciliation. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
A simple practice we can all do every day, no matter what your religion, no matter what your color, no matter what your culture, your beliefs. It's something we can all do every day. It becomes a daily habit, just like brushing your teeth. And Mohamedou, that is a line from my TED Talk because of the 365 give practice I started with my son when he was 3 years old. So when I say you're speaking my language, you're pulling it right out of the words of my mouth, literally.
I'm going to steal even more. As I get to know, I'm going to steal even more.
No, you don't need to. You've got it down to a science. You got this. It's absolutely perfect.
Sorry. What I love so much is how, and this goes back to the earlier question, how you keep both of you showing us what it looks like to be empowered. As much as these narratives, propagandas, circumstances, situations keep insisting that we are disempowered, both of you show us over and over again that in fact that's not true. That is false. And the truth is, we are empowered. And should we choose to get back in the driver's seat, we could certainly drive that car. We have that power. And you show it to us with your own life stories, with examples from others, as you just did, Mohamedou. And I think we need a lot more of this for us to really start to understand the truth of who we are as human beings, the power that we have. And as Ammar was saying, yes, I'm a neuroscientist. There's a lot of science that shows how you can hack through the body, but there's also so much that we can't explain and don't understand. And it has to do with being present. What we don't understand falls in the realm of the knowing and not the knowledge that we've gained. The knowing with which we were born, the power with which we were born, what we were God-given, what is the truth of the amazing brilliance of our divine humanity.
You know, this reminds me, Roshanek, very much of the story, and you two may not be familiar, but Neil Donald Walsh is one of the founders of Humanity's Team. And Mohamedou, he shares a very similar story. He wrote a book called A Conversation with God, and 39 other books. And a story that he shares is when he became homeless and everything he had was gone. He had nothing at all. And he says it's the same way. He said, you know, all you can do is show up as your true self. It was his greatest lesson in his whole journey, because he got to show up and he always chose the same path, which was every time I had $1, I would give half to somebody that needed it, you know, or when I went and got my job and somebody helped me get off the street, the first thing I did was I came and I gave it back to the people that I shared the benches with and the street with. And I shared it as much as I could because it was the same thing. It was the one thing that, you know, everything can be taken away, but that is the one thing you always have is what you can give from your heart. And you can call it no lesson. You can only share your own experience, but for all of you out there in TV land and live land, I would say that is the greatest lesson that we can all understand, is that when you're stripped of nothing, that's what you have left, because it's who you truly are and nobody can take that away from you. And you're a beautiful living example of love. And thank you for that so much.
To me, you're a living example of Dostoevsky's novels and, you know, everything that has to do with the truth of the human condition and human dignity. And what cannot be taken away from us. You could strip us of everything, but you, Mohamedou, if I may say, and Ammar, are shining examples of the best of us, of what we can be.
Right.
Of who
What's
we truly
possible.
are.
What's possible. You know, this is the connection beyond what words can describe. And it's what I put in the, you know, for one man connected by the string of what we call family, you know, to stand your ground, Ammar, and be part of Mohamedou's remarkable story. Know the impact and the effect. And I hope everyone continues to tell you that again and again and again, because every time an interview like this is done, and we got you both, like here we.
First time,
but every time this story is told, every time someone picks up the book, every time the movie is watched, you, Ammar, have been part of the story and changing the lives of everyone. And I know Mohamedou probably gets a lot of it, but please make sure you know that you're so interconnected and intertwined into the beautiful tapestry of the story. That's love, right? We got to see it in real time with you both and most of all, feel it. We got to feel it. And that is such a gift you're giving us.
I feel it as well.
Yeah, that's going to be part of my new tattoo I'm getting. I'm just going to let you know I'm looking that symbol up today. I'm adding it.
It's I love what you said to me, Jacqueline, also takes us to that part about the shared path. Each of us. So there's from the West, there's such a prevailing narrative, such a push for hyper individuation. And the truth is our interdependence. And I talk about in so many different ways, and including with our founders, Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God and 39 other books. And like you, Mohamedou, there was a movie made of his life, and he had a dream. And in the dream, he saw these different people showing up for their different teams. You know, this is not specific to what his dream was, but I'm using it as an example. So let's say there was like the Muslims, the Dutch, the US, the whatever, field workers, all the different groups. And he said, who's going to show up for humanities team? And then he woke up. And he quickly looked to see, and he said, there's no way humanities team is still available as a domain. And sure enough, it was. And he got it. And that was his dream. But then he connected with Steve Farrell, who's the other founder of humanities team. And he's the one who's running really the operations of it. And so they needed each other to make the co-dream, the shared dream come true. And so you two are also an example. There's so many examples. Look at Jacqueline and I. Neither one of us would be here without the other, right? The shared dream and how we make it. Look at how you guys are making our dreams come true. You know, and our push for this. I used to avoid the word love. I'm like, oh, it's too girly. It's too wishy-washy. Jacqueline knows. I'm like, oh, you know, people's eyes are going to all over. and they're going to think about romantic love. But to me, and I learned this as a child, God is love. So when I say love, and I always use capital letters, that's that divine love. And I show people through science and medicine how it is as necessary to survival, to proper neurodevelopment as air and water and shelter. We need it to survive, to thrive. There is abundant evidence scientifically and medically for that, starting with premature babies all the way to adults and their health and wellness, physically and mentally, and including the adult study that came out of Harvard, started in the 1930s, that for generations and over 1,000 people has shown that the greatest single factor that influences our longevity, our health, our sense of fulfillment, our success, all the things that everybody wants, is good, stable relationships. So
Connection.
And that's what Salat means, doesn't it, Mohamedou? It means connection.
Connection.
That's what we do. So we have to slowly wrap up, but yeah,
you
go
take
ahead.
it out of my mouth, actually.
Well, you've been doing it to Jacqueline, so
we're just passing the words around.
It's this shared thing.
Touche.
There you go.
We can't beat Americans because Americans are used to.
I'm not American. Hold on, I'm not American.
No. I'm talking about her. You already folded. Canadians fold even before the battle begins. But you can see how feisty Roshanak is because
Roshanak feisty. No.
Americans are very huge babies. They always need to take, to win. And actually, this is the truth. One of the what they call it, like this, the values of the military, they have to memorize. I will never accept defeat. And
that sounds like Ammar. He did not accept defeat.
I asked this guy. I asked him, okay, and because he was memorizing, because he has to stand and he has to memorize this. I will never accept defeat. I will always be a soldier. I would never leave fallen behind. Something like that. I said, okay, well, what would you do if you defeated? He said, I won't accept defeat. I said, that is stupid.
That is defeat. That is defeat. You've lost the moment that you've set that sort of parameter, any hard parameters. And speaking of which, Mohamedou, you are actually quite good friends with one of your guards, and you wish nothing but the best from the bottom of your heart. You've said this many times, for the people who were trained to not see you as a real, divine, beautiful human being, which we all are. And that, I think, is such an important point. When we other someone else, we allow ourselves the opportunity to dehumanize them, which then allows us to do a lot of damage to ourselves and to the other. We had last week Joe Barry on, whose father was killed by an ex-combatant who planted a bomb to get rid of Margaret Thatcher and her cabinet and managed to kill 5 people. One of them was Joe's dad. That was last week. And, we talk a lot about love and compassion and unity and oneness. And she said, well, here I am meditating. Where do you go with that? People kill and people are killed. Meditation's not going to get you through that in the moment. And so she really took the opportunity to see someone else as the human being that they are. That takes a lot of courage, a lot of presence, a lot of expressing the power that each of us has, because we become brainwashed. We don't know that we're being brainwashed, especially as it happens from when we're children. Another word for that is bias, unconscious bias, right? Mm-hmm. We create a world model, this paradigm of how things are and who people are and what that means, because the events themselves are devoid of meaning. We give the meaning. And so people are trained in order to get what they want, not accept defeat, using different tactics. And there's this thing called Karpman's triangle. When there's conflict or drama, there are three spaces that can be held. One is the perpetrator, the bad guy. One is the victim, and one is the hero. And we keep cycling around these three, and none of us ever thinks we're the perpetrator. Rarely do we think we usually consciously think we're flipping back and forth between the hero and the victim. Whereas in fact, oftentimes we can be the perpetrator, especially if something has happened to us. So, Mohamedou, things did unfortunately happen to you, and you didn't subscribe to this. You truly connected to your divinity, that love, and reshaped the story. You changed the trajectory of the story, and everyone connected to it, and anyone who hears it. How did one man change the trajectory of so many lives?
So I really want to echo and repeat one more time something that you
No, sorry, can't. No.
mentioned. Like one of the biggest weapon of the oppressor is dehumanizing the perceived enemy. I tell you a story that happened to me. So Ammar's mother is a refugee. Her village, her city was ravaged by war. And back then the perpetrator was the Yugoslavian government, the Serbian government, to be precise. I wouldn't say the Serbian people. And and I have a friend, and I was very young and very stupid, very angry. I told them, Serbian people are bad people. I'm ashamed to admit this, but I have to say this, and this is not my position, but my position back then, because I wasn't, enlightened, I would say. And then he looked at me, Muhammad. His name is Muhammad, he's Moroccan. He told me, Mohamedou, I could never hurt a Serbian guy. I'm sorry to tell you that. I said, why? He said, because my colleague is a Serbian guy. He worked with me. So this shows you that if you put a face on someone, if you know a Palestinian person in person, you would never drop a bomb on them. If you know an Israeli person, you would never attack them or do any harm to them. So the first thing you have first to deprive them, take their humanity away in order to visit pain on them. And I really didn't have a lot of American friends. To be precise, I had 0 American friends before I was kidnapped. And I also saw those American people on TV, very buff guys, very arrogant, carrying a lot of weapons. And whenever we hear like Rammstein, like planes landing in Rammstein, in this base in Germany, we know something is going down in our region. And that made me really not very fond on them, even hate them. But when you meet American people are really very kind people, are really very generous people. And they are everything I'm familiar with where I grew up. Kindness, openness. And Steve is not only my friend, he's a member of my family. He's a very close friend to Ammar. And we joke, when he came, I told him I will imprison you in my house, and we want the same thing. At the end of the day, we want a good future for our family. We want war to stop everywhere, because God knows we have other problems with the planet, and we need to cooperate more than ever.
Thank you so much for that. I would like to, if you don't mind, ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Jacqueline. What is the space that you're in? What is the most important thing that has been moving through you that you want to like scream out and say, yes, this, did you get this? Jacqueline, I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Ammar and end with Mohamedou.
Yeah, it's a simple one. That show up as your true nature, as Mohamedou and Ammar has both shown us today, from their own unique perspectives, because sometimes it feels like we have to show up and fight. We need to fight for what's right. We need to shake all of humanity and say, wake up, wake up. And Ammar, that's what I feel like you did, is you give everybody a big shake and say, wake up, we have to do this differently. And we need to do what's right for people, because sometimes we do, when they're so locked so far away from us all. You had to shake the bars really hard. And sometimes we have to do that, but you didn't do it with violence. You didn't do it by going and bombing the Guantánamo Bay to get him out. You did it through a justice system that worked, and you did it because it came from a place of love. And that's the way that we can, I'm going to say fight the system. That's how we can fight the system, because we're coming from it from a place of love and peace and doing what's right. And Mohamedou, you just show everyone that no matter what happens to us in our life, we were talking about this very early this morning, about 4 o'clock my time, where every time I think of something so ridiculous, or 2 days ago, I had woken up on the wrong side of the bed, complaining about things in my world that maybe I wasn't happy about in that day, I shook my head and I thought of you. And I thought, how can I do anything but show up with love for everyone around me, for my family, for my children, for everyone I speak to on the phone, for moments like this? How can I do anything but that? Because you are the beautiful, shining example of being stripped of everything and still doing that. So thank you for that. That's what I will take with me. And you will be my beautiful reminder every day to show up as kindness and love for the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Ammar, same question.
Well, this hit me, Jacqueline. So if I could break it down, this whole thing, it's not rocket science. Many people, they say, okay, how did you do this? How did you do this? How did you manage this? And it's funny because those are the same people who say, I cannot start a business because I don't have money. But everyone knows that you could start a business with $0. Same goes with such a project, with such a plan. The only thing that you need, something that drives you, which is love at the end, and you need a system. And this is something that I would love to give the audience, but also to you. There is like a system that's called the 4 principles of human capital development, which helps you to understand what it takes for people to get into action. The first one is, do you have a why? Do you have a purpose? The second one is the ability. Do you have the ability to do it? And the third thing is, do you have the willingness to do it? And imagine you have all of those 3 things. You will need a force that will help you out, which is to have it's not an idol, but someone who did it in the past already that will help you as well. And I know that I grew up reading books from my heroes, which are people such as Malcolm X, for example, Muhammad Ali, Nelson Mandela. And I said, okay, well, I have those three things, and I have people who did it in the past, and I know I can do it. And still, at the end, it can be frustrating, and you will need something. So you have love that keeps helping you to do it, but you need something that will keep you doing it, no matter how frustrating it is. And I will end it with one verse of the Quran, of the Holy Book. It is, I think, in the, Mohammed, correct me if I'm wrong, I think in the 94th surah, 94th chapter of the Quran, for verse number 5, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا, which means, verily, with hardship comes ease. And I knew it will come ease somehow. And I think that's what kept me going. So, yeah, many people don't know this about Mohamedou, by the way, but this guy knows the whole Quran by heart. So it's maybe a little fun fact about you, Mohamedou.
Thank you so much, Ammar. Mohamedou, my dear, would you please share with us the one overwhelming thing you would like people to know, to come away with from today, from anything that we've discussed or something else? What is it that's really in your heart now?
Mindset, Heartset, reset. I will practice this. And you know, the biggest thing that came to me when I saw those beautiful faces today, Roshanak and Jacqueline and Ammar, is what we already have in our tradition, a hadith that says, you have family members that your mother did not bear. You are those people that are described in this hadith.
I'm trying not to cry. Thank you.
I'm coming, Mohamedou, just so you know. I was just in Amsterdam. I think I told you this not too long ago. I can't believe. So I'm coming back. I'm coming back just to have some time together. And I have a whole family there I'm going to introduce you to as well that you will love. And I can't wait. This is a funny story between Mohamedou and I. I just found this out yesterday. He was interviewed with one of my best girlfriends who lives in Amsterdam for the exact same magazine that I was just interviewed for just a few weeks ago, which is insanity to me. That
no coincidences.
You know, there's no coincidences,
No
right?
coincidences.
And in that moment, and I just found this out yesterday, and so I've already been texting everybody saying I'm coming back. I got a new friend. I need to spend some time with friends. I'm so excited.
Not friends, family.
Family, exactly. I have a whole family in Amsterdam. It's beautiful.
If you want, if you come, I take you. You know, I show you around, and then we can get Ammar, because you know, and Roshanak, and then we could just do a tour around, and then I can make you guys tea.
There you go.
I'm bringing
You know how I know I keep
universal-
getting very old? I will tell you this is fun fact. Every time Ammar now I go, I pack my tea in my bag. And
Yeah.
I think people think it's drugs, which is very liberal in this country. No problem, even if you have drugs, you know, the marshal says those are the people who take care of the borders here. This is just coming. So it is good.
I love that. I pack my own tea too, Mohamedou, just so you know.
No way!
Everywhere.
Get out, get out. I don't want to associate with people like you.
Then I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Yes, you're Iranian. You already said too much.
That's right. And now I'm going to say some more.
It's funny how you switch, Mohammed. Sometimes she's American, sometimes she's Iranian. So
Right. But I'm both. And there you go.
Okay, but
There's
I'm
the
Canadian.
genius in
So
it.
now, yeah, just to put
No,
those pieces
Ammar.
together.
No. Ammar, that's American tactic. They use against you.
He's been there too long, Ammar. He's been there too long.
If they don't like her, they would call her Iranian. If they need her, they will call her, you're American. You should be proud to be American.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right.
I love that. And I always tell everybody up front I'm Canadian, then nobody bugs me. and we're good.
Nicest
We're
people
so
on earth. Huh?
Canadians.
Right.
Yeah, Canadians
Okay.
are the nice American.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
My beautiful family.
We have to go,
Those,
family.
those on the screen and those who are watching, those who are live with us, those who come to the recording. Thank you so much for joining us and for being part of the beauty that shines the light in the world that we so desperately want and need. And everything that we need, we just have to express it. So thank you so much, Ammar, Mohamedou, for joining Jacqueline and myself and bringing your truth here. We really appreciate it. In mindset, heartset, and the courage to reset. Thank you. Is there some way, before we go, that you would like people to be able to connect with you should they want to? First, Ammar.
I would go.
Or just like, no, don't talk to me.
Please reach out to me. I'll be glad to answer and then to talk to you.
You're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, yes. I think I can put into the comments. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that the best way to go?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And Mohamedou, how should people
Anyone who contacts you or Jacqueline or Ammar is contacting me. And
okay, so please feel free to
free.
contact me and I will get all the messages over to Mohamedou.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So everybody, thank you for joining us. This has been extraordinary and the typical uncommon conversation of all the conversations that Mohamedou has had in the last years. I guarantee none of them were like this, not one. Thank you, everyone. We are done for the month of December, and this closes out our social justice series. We will come back with you in January, on January 2nd. And in January, our theme will be wellness. So every show that we have in January will be centered around different aspects of wellness, as it is January and people do want to start off the new year improving their lives in whatever way, shape, form, or possible. So we'll give you tools and strategies, everything from energy flow to what you eat. I'm super excited to have a full month of wellness tips, tools, hacks, strategies,
practices,
all of it, so that you can create beautiful new habits that will put you in a good state, so that when your body is in a good state, you allow your psyche to come through as the best version of you. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. God bless. Namaste. Ishq.